I wasn't invited to my only daughter's wedding, but 2 days later she texted, "Pay for our honeymoon in Hawaii and buy us a car." By the end of the week, I was tying a big red bow around a $200 relic I'd rescued from the edge of a junkyard and clicking confirm on the only resort I could find whose reviews mentioned feral chickens in the lobby and a complimentary bucket to catch the leaks when it rained. If you think that sounds cruel, wait until you hear what she said to me the night she decided I didn't belong at her ceremony. "My name is Marigold North, Mari to friends, Grandma Goldie to the neighbors' toddlers who always come for cookies, and I am 71 years old. I can knit socks without looking down, fold a fitted sheet that would make a drill sergeant weep, and repair a leaky faucet with a roll of thread tape and an old toothbrush. I have survived a war, 2 recessions, a gallbladder that turned on me, and 49 years of marriage to a man who could hide an entire set of car keys under yesterday's newspaper and then swear the house had gremlins. What I had not prepared for, somehow, was my daughter deciding I was an eyesore on her perfect day. It started with a dress. Mom, Lila said, early in spring, when invitations are designed and pastry chefs are tasting frostings that all look the same to laypeople. The theme is clean minimal elegance. No flowers, no patterns, and please, nothing grandmotherly. I was holding a bolt of cream silk with a tiny embroidered vine, so faint you had to squint to see it. This is barely a pattern. It reads old. And, she added, examining my reflection like I was a paint swatch, please do something about your hair. The gray is a lot. I swallowed the reply that rose in my throat. My hair has been silver since 50, and I wear it in a bun not because I've given up, but because I like to cook without shedding. It's your day, I said. I'll find something simple. That would be best. I told myself she was anxious, that brides get pinched and brittle around the edges. I told myself that at her core she was still the shy girl who used to wear my work shirts like dresses and stomp around the yard pretending to be a farmer. When she was 8, she cried because her carrot patch sprouted crooked. When she was 12, she tried to bake me a surprise cake that we had to eat with spoons because it refused to solidify. She used to fall asleep on my shoulder during thunderstorms. You don't lose that kind of softness, I thought. You misplace it. Then came the rehearsal dinner plans, which I learned about when my neighbor's niece posted a photo of the venue, tagged with the caption, "Practically royal." The place had chandeliers I could have used as small boats. I hadn't been told the time, the place, or whether I was supposed to bring anything besides a smile and discreet tissues. I texted Lila to ask. "Don't worry about the rehearsal," she wrote back. "It's mostly for the wedding party. We're keeping things streamlined." I recognized that word. Streamlined. It's what people say when they mean you complicate my aesthetic. Still, I bought a gift, 2 thick bath sheets from a linen store where the towels feel like apologies, wrapped them in heavy paper with a satin ribbon, and set them by the door. I imagined knocking on the rehearsal dinner, slipping in with my gift and quiet pride, hugging my daughter and telling her that the lines of her face are my mother's and mine and hers, a map of all the women who carried her to this room. The next day the courier arrived with a glossy white envelope. I held it like a bird that might fly. Inside was a card with a photo of Lila and her fiancé, Chase, standing on a cliff looking like a perfume ad. "We request the honor," it began, in swirling black script. But before I reached the date, I noticed a thin band of gold ink at the bottom and a line printed in tiny sans serif letters. "This invitation admits 1+1 guest of the bride. Please present at the chapel entrance." I'm not a lawyer. I'm a retired school librarian who knows how to tape the spine of a book so it will hold for another 1,000 hands. But even I could see the oddity. A ticket that reads like a theater pass, without my name on it, only the phrase, "guest of the bride." I called Lila. "It's a small venue," she said, after a long exhale that meant she was already tired of me. We had to get creative. "It's okay if you don't come." Silence held us. I could hear myself breathe. "Lila," I said finally. "Is it okay if I do?" Another exhale. "Mom, we were thinking it might be less complicated if you didn't." I had to sit down. The towel-wrapped gift slid off the hall bench and flopped onto the floor like a fish. "You're saying I shouldn't come to your wedding?" "I'm saying there's a lot of history. And you're intense. Chase's family worries about scenes. We want a day without stress. Your father never made scenes, I said, foolishly, pulling a man who'd been gone 11 years into a conversation he couldn't mediate. Dad made the biggest scene of all, she snapped, and then went soft with guilt. I'm sorry. Please respect our boundary. We'll send photos. I could have argued. I could have told her boundaries are fences you draw around yourself, not knives you plant in someone else's chest. I could have reminded her that the reason we have history is that when her father died and she left for college 2 days later, I sold our second car to pay her dorm deposit because financial aid was processing. And I worked nights cleaning classrooms so she wouldn't have to choose between textbooks and food. I could have said so many things. Instead, I said, all right, if that's what you want. It is, she said, relief bright as a bell. I love you, Mom. I love you too. I did not go to the wedding. On the day, I made a pot of chicken soup and baked biscuits, because you should always have warm food when you're in pain, and I turned off the radio so the house would stop chirping happy songs at me. In the afternoon, a neighbor's teenager brought over a bridal magazine I hadn't asked for and said, look. She used the photographer with a drone. I thanked her and slid the magazine under the couch and wished every drone would fly out to sea. That night, I washed my face and went to bed with a paperback novel about a found family of misfits who open a bakery. I slept like an expedition climber at base camp, fitfully and slightly sick. 2 days later, my phone rang. Lila, glowing. Her new last name on the caller ID looked like it belonged to someone in a luxury catalog. Hi, Mom, she sang. Quick thing. Quick, I said, bracing. So we're thinking Hawaii for the honeymoon. Makani Bay. Super private. We want to go this week, while we're still in the moment. And, we'd like you to cover it. I had to take the phone away from my ear and look at it, as if it might confess to impersonating my daughter. Cover. Hawaii. Well, we didn't invite you, and we know that hurt you, she said, her voice sliding into the careful tone she used when she wanted to sound generous while taking something. So this could be a way to, contribute? Contribute, I repeated, because sometimes the only way to survive a conversation is to echolocate with the other person's words. And one more little thing, she added. A car. We don't have one that's, aesthetically aligned with who we are now. Chase says a Lexus would be the minimum that makes sense for our brand. White. Minimal. Clean. I bit the inside of my cheek until I could taste metal. You're asking me to buy you a car. It's an investment in us, she said brightly. People notice what you drive. And we want to start well. How much are you thinking? Something tasteful, she said, which is a word people use when they mean expensive. I said. Let me see what I can do. I hung up and sat at my kitchen table among the stacks of cookbooks and old field guides I keep even though most people ask their phones to identify birds. The afternoon light slid through the blinds and striped the scarred wood. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Then I laughed, a low, astonished sound, because this was so naked, so surreal, that it crossed the border into comedy. My daughter had not wanted my face in the wedding pictures, but she wanted my bank account in the driveway. People think revenge is a teenager's game. Sugar in the gas tank, a badly timed Instagram story, a rumor whispered at the right party. At 71, revenge is mostly patience and paperwork. It's knowing where to look things up and how to interpret the small print. I took out a yellow legal pad and wrote, in block letters, a question I ask when the world tries to turn me into a doormat. What lesson is needed here? Not the kind of lesson that lands someone in the hospital or on the evening news. Not a stunt or a crime. A lesson that corrects the lie at the center of the ask. The lie here was that money equals love, and that love should be invisible so the day looks clean. So I decided to give them exactly what they asked for. Exactly. No more. No less. All within the letter of the law. Generous on paper. Educational in practice. First, Hawaii. Hawaii is a paradise, but it is also a place where people live and work, and like everywhere people live, it has the full spectrum of accommodations, from bamboo sheets softer than breath to pillow smelled like someone's gym bag. I opened my laptop, made tea, and began to search. The trick is not to sort by price. That is how you accidentally give a deal to a cheerful little place where the owner has personally planted plumeria around the door and will put passion fruit in your breakfast if you look like you might cry. No, the trick is to read the reviews that include the phrase "you get what you pay for," the ones where the photos are slightly blurry and there is always a dish rag hanging on a doorknob. I found it in under an hour. The Mackay Breeze Resort, a name that suggested Presto Chango tropical magic, and hit a 3-story rectangle of aging stucco half a mile from the ocean. Resort here meant a soda machine and a coin-op washer that ate quarters. Their photos showed a pool the color of chewing gum and a lobby with a wicker love seat that had given up. The top review began, "Don't expect much and you'll be fine." Another said, "The staff is sweet, but the roosters are louder." A third, "Bring flip-flops for the shower." There was more. An island experience fee of $27 per day that covered amenities like access to an outdoor relaxation zone, 2 plastic chairs in a triangle of dirt. A note that said, in tiny text, "Ocean view available upon request," followed by the words, "From 3rd floor walkway only," and then, like a little giggle from whoever wrote the page, "Lean right." I read the cancellation policy. Non-refundable. I clicked through to the romance package, which included a bottle of sparkling celebration beverage that was definitely not champagne and a fresh floral arrangement, 2 sunburned carnations, and a sprig of something that would stain a shirt. The package also included late checkout, if available, which it never ever is. I booked 7 nights, romance package included, in the name of Mr. and Mrs. Chase and Lila perfume surname. I printed the email to tuck into a folder. Paper is a kind courtroom. Second, the car. I do not put sugar in gas tanks. I do not slash tires. I do, however, know how to get a vehicle legally and cheaply. My late husband loved auctions, estate sales, impounds, police surplus that turned out to be piles of filing cabinets in the rain. In the final decade of his life, when his mind went cottony and soft, the auctions were what still made him sit up straight and get out of bed early. I learned to read the listings, to see the difference between a lemon and a lemon you can zest. There is a lot between a new Lexus and a lump of rust. Somewhere in the middle lies a sketchy but functional sedan, outwardly tidy and mechanically weary, that will go forward and turn left on a good day. Below that, there is the category we call runner, meaning runs for now. Below runner is parts. Below parts is art. At the back of an impound lot outside town, past the chain link fence, past 3 pickup trucks with sorrow in their shocks, I found her, a white 1998 Leighton Majesty, a model that once starred in a billboard about success. The paint had oxidized into chalk, the ceiling fabric sagged, and the back bumper had been kissed by something sharper than love. But when the yard man turned the key, the engine did not cough. It cleared its throat, offended, and then settled into a low, stubborn idle. The lights worked. The seat belts locked. No dashboard lights stayed on except the one that winked, "You forgot to close me," when the rear door didn't latch on the first try. Title, clean. Smog, recent. Tires, all 4 present and politely bald. "How much?" I asked. He squinted at the clipboard. "Scrap value's $150, he said. "Give me $200 and I'll throw in a set of floor mats someone left behind." I paid in cash. He counted it with the solemnity of a preacher. We signed the paper on the fender. I drove the Majesty home at the speed of respect, stopping twice because the glove box door kept flopping open to reveal a nest of old napkins and a golf pencil. The radio worked if you hummed along. At home, I vacuumed the carpet, wiped the steering wheel with disinfecting wipes, and fibres the trunk until it smelled like a meadow with secrets. I stuck a little pine tree on the rearview mirror and argued with myself about the ethics of replacing the missing G in Majesty with a gold sticker I found in my craft drawer. In the end, I placed it at a jaunty angle. Majesty reborn. The next day I drove to a party store and bought the largest red bow they had, the kind used on showroom cars and proposals that go right. I set the box on the passenger seat and patted the dashboard. Tomorrow, I told the Majesty, "You're going to meet your new family." Before bed, I called my friend Dottie from 3 houses down. Dottie is 80 and has the shoulders of a high school wrestler. She believes in two things, butter and receipts. Is this about the wedding? She asked, voice low and fierce. It's about the honeymoon, I said. And transportation. Bless my heart, she murmured, which is what she says when she hopes God is watching. The morning of the reveal, the sky wore a low gray cap. I drove to Lila's condo at 9 because she has always hated early knocks and because I was in the mood to be educational, not cruel. I parked the Majesty in front of their building, tied the bow so the tails fell like ribbons in a parade, and stepped back. The car looked like an apology wrapped in confidence. I rang the bell. Footsteps, whispers, the tick of someone's impatience. Chase opened the door in a t-shirt that cost the same as a small appliance. He looked me up and down with a frankness that said, not my brand. Mari, he said. We were never on a first-name basis, but he used it like a dare. We were just about to head out. I brought a gift, I said brightly. 2, actually. I gestured toward the street. He leaned, saw the car, blinked. His mouth arranged itself into something that tried to be a smile and landed somewhere near a grimace. Is that? A car, I said. White, as requested. Minimal. Clean. The bow shone. The Majesty sat solemn as a dog who knows it is noble, even with mismatched ears. Mom? Lila called from inside. What's going on? She appeared in the hallway in a robe the color of foam at the edge of a latte and stopped when she saw the bow through the glass. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, she said, and for a second I saw the kid inside her, the one who couldn't hide her emotions if you paid her. It's yours, I said, handing her the key. The plastic fob was cracked where someone had chewed it, but I smiled like it was a jewel. And this, I pulled the scaled folder from my purse, the one with the resort confirmation, the printed emails, the policy highlighted in yellow like a teaching moment. Is your honeymoon? She took the folder and flipped it open. I watched her face as she read, Mackay Breeze Resort. Romance package included. Ocean view available upon request. Lean right. Her mouth flattened. What is this? She asked, looking up. You said Hawaii, I answered, gentle as a librarian explaining the copy machine. This is Hawaii. Chase took the folder and read faster than he was thinking. Non-refundable, he said. Yes, I agreed. Isn't that convenient? You can go immediately. I booked it for today through next week. I wanted you to have the full experience. Lila blinked rapidly. You're kidding. I shook my head. Did I misunderstand? You asked me to pay for your honeymoon in Hawaii and to buy you a car. I have done both. Now you won't need to scramble, and you can start your marriage with gratitude. Chase cleared his throat. We had something different in mind. I said, placing a hand over my heart. You wanted something different. You should have said. You know exactly what we meant, Lila snapped, her voice disintegrating into the old whine she used to have at 4 when she was tired. You always do this. Hide behind literal and act innocent. The accusation landed somewhere below my ribs, where words go to bruise. I stood up straighter. You didn't invite me to your wedding, I said quietly. That was literal too. The silence that followed had a temperature. Finally, she said, low, we didn't want drama. You wanted photos without wrinkles, I said. But Lila, love, life is wrinkles. And car payments. And bad towels. So congratulations. I smiled a small, precise smile that felt like balancing 3 eggs on a spoon. Your ride awaits. Chase walked down the path to the curb, circling the Majesty like a man inspecting a sculpture he wants to hate. He opened the door, sniffed, poked the upholstery with a knuckle. This is a joke, he said. It's a piece of language, I said evenly. The car runs. It's insured for the month, title signed over to you. It has a full tank. The radio gets 2 stations. The seatbelts work. Be thankful. Or don't. That's a you problem. Either way, your bags should be light if you're going to make that flight. He stared at me. I stared back. I have practiced that stare on 8th graders who thought they could steal calculators. Lila stepped past me and bent toward the bow. For a second, I thought she might untie it and laugh. Instead, she flicked the ribbon like it had insulted her and said, You're punishing me. Oh, darling, I said. I would never punish you. I'm educating you. Behind her, on their hallway table, Set the wedding photo in a silver frame. Lila and Chase on the cliff, the wind moving through her veil like a secret. I touched the edge of it with a finger as I turned to go. Enjoy the island, I said softly. Try the shaved ice. It really does help. I walked back to the car I actually drive, a sensible hatchback with a trunk big enough for groceries and a table lamp, and breathed. My hands shook, so I put them on my knees until the tremor passed. I did not cry. Crying is for nights, for tea and a blanket, and the little prayer I say to my mother, who always told me to hold my head up even when my heart wanted to curl. At noon, my phone rang again. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. Mom, Lila said, her voice pitched high and thin. We're at the airport, and they're saying our hotel has, like, an outdoor hallway? And it's not near the beach? And Chase says this is insane. Fix it. I saved the message. Paper is a kind courtroom. Audio is a chorus. Dottie came over that evening with pie. We ate slices at my kitchen table, and she laughed so hard she had to press a napkin to her eyes. Chickens in the lobby, she wheezed. Mercy. They might learn to love chickens, I said, half defensive, half ruthless. Chickens are braver than people give them credit for. I went to bed early. The next morning, the phone vibrated with texts like a dryer full of zippers. A photo, a concrete walkway with a sliver of sea visible if you leaned right. Another, a bed covered by a blanket that might once have been white. A third, Chase standing beside a vending machine with an expression like he'd been shoved. Then a call. I answered. It's hot, Lila said, as if I could do something about the sun. The pool is small. Pools are often small, I said. That's what makes oceans so impressive. There are geckos. How wonderful, I said. Think of them as mascots. She made the sound she makes when she's about to cry and resents herself for it. Why are you doing this? Because you asked, I said simply. And because I am a human being, not a wallet. You chose to remove me from your day. You can't remove me from your life without consequences. This is a small one. A week of learning. You'll survive. She hung up. I sat with the emptiness in my hands. It is a heavy thing, the knowledge that your child can wield you like a tool. I made toast and watered the fern and told myself that love is not agreeing to be diminished. Love is sometimes saying no, in a voice that sounds like steel wrapped in velvet. On the third day, the island did what islands do, it softened them. I could hear it in her texts. We found a plate lunch place with the best chicken katsu, she wrote, grudging at first and then open. There's a small beach if we walk 15 minutes and cross a highway. The water is warm. A photo of her feet in the surf. Another of a sunset that could have printed itself on a postcard. Then, the geckos are cute. I laughed out loud, alone in my kitchen. I sent back a photo of my geranium, defiantly red against the window, and wrote, see? Learning. Meanwhile, the Majesty sat in front of their condo, bow slightly wilted in the afternoon heat. I drove by once, just to witness the tableau. An older man walking his dog stopped and admired the bow. Someone's lucky, he said. Luck takes strange forms, I answered. When they came back, they were brown and brittle and a little dazed, like small logs after a backyard fire. Lila stood in my doorway with a bag of Kona coffee and an expression that said, we are going to perform politeness. I took the coffee, thanked her, and waited. So, she said, that was unforgettable. Things usually are when they're not what you expected, I said. Chase stayed in the car, thumb traveling over his phone screen like a mosquito craving blood. Lila hesitated on the porch, then stepped into my living room, which still smells like lemon oil no matter how many candles the grandkids give me. I was mad, she said. I noticed. I felt embarrassed. I felt discarded, I said, and let the word hang. Discarded. The thing you do with bones after you've made stock. She closed her eyes and nodded. We shouldn't have done it the way we did. I shouldn't have. I waited, because at 71, you learn the power of silence. She looked at the wall where I keep family photos, her in a sequin tutu at 6, missing teeth and grinning, her in a mortarboard at 22, cheeks round with victory, her with her father in a cheap paper hat one New Year's Eve, both of them laughing at nothing. I wanted it to be perfect, she said. The words came like someone admitting a habit. I thought if I controlled everything, then nobody could ruin it. Nobody like me, I supplied. Nobody like anyone, she said quickly, and then softer. I'm sorry I hurt you. I nodded once and let the apology stick to my skin where it needed to. You were scared, I said. Perfection is what people reach for when they feel fear. But it's boring in photographs and hard on mothers. Chase says we should sell the car, she said, changing lanes because emotions are construction zones. We found a dealer who might give us $800. Take it, I said. Pay your credit card. Buy a decent vacuum. Invest in a savings account that doesn't look good on Instagram. She smiled, real this time. We might keep the bow. Always keep the bow, I said. Symbolism matters. She took a breath. Mom, would you come over tonight? We're doing a little dinner. Just a few friends. Clean minimal salad. She laughed, owning the phrase now. I want you there. No drone. Wear the dress you like, I said. The one with the tiny fish scale sequins that catch light. It's grandmotherly, she teased. It's real, I said. Those are different. We were not healed, not like that, not with one apology and a salad. But the door had opened. I could wedge my foot in, then my good hip, then the rest of me. It would take time, and I have time, because I eat my greens and I forgive slowly, and I walk every morning past the jacaranda on 12th Street that drops purple confetti like a city tree celebrating itself. Chase came around slowly, the way men do when they realize that a woman with a coupon book and a spine is not to be mocked. He complained about the Majesty for weeks, about its habit of sighing at stoplights, about how the trunk lid needed a special touch like a safe, but he drove it to his job for a month because his own car's lease came due and he'd miscalculated. The Majesty taught him humility one stall at a time. When he finally traded it for a teenager's skateboard money, he held onto the red bow. The bow became a party decoration, then a joke, then, some nights, a crown for their cranky houseplant. And Hawaii? Hawaii became their story. The resort became a punchline, yes, but also a place where they walked to the beach at dawn and learned that pelicans look prehistoric when they skim, where they ate shaved ice with condensed milk and discovered that sweetness can be thoughtful, where they listened to the roosters argue at 4 a.m. and agreed that sleep is a gift you should never take for granted. If they honeymooned at the Four Seasons, their photos would have looked like everyone else's photos. Instead, they came back with a story that begins, so we stayed at this place with a view if you leaned right. They even brought me a souvenir, not the coffee, which was polite, but a postcard of a rooster standing on a rental car. On the back Lila wrote, he looked like the Majesty. Proud as anything. Love you. I put the card on my fridge, next to the list that says, in black marker, what lesson is needed here? Underneath it I wrote, the difference between being loved and being used. It was not all tidy. People never are. There were still times when Lila talked to me like a consultant she forgot to hire, when Chase rolled his eyes at my crockpot, when I angled my body away from their barbed little comments and felt the old bruise ache. But when I stood at their kitchen island the following winter, chopping walnuts for a salad that had more character than minimalism, I watched my daughter reach out, without thinking, to tuck a loose strand of my hair behind my ear, and I thought, there she is. Found, not lost. Misplaced, then returned. Months later, when the car conversation came up again, this time because they were expecting a baby and needed something with room for a car seat and a stroller, and all the hopes you pack when you carry a child, I said, let's go shopping. Together. We went to a dealer on the freeway with a glass building that threw back the sun. The man in the suit looked at my shoes and made the math error of his career, opening his pitch with phrases like affordable monthly. I took out my folder, paper is a kind courtroom, and said, we'll be paying cash. Chase looked at me. I looked back, letting him see the ledger in my eyes. The dinners, the check-ins, the efforts you make when you remember that you come from a woman who taught you to keep soup warm for the person who gets home late. We'll pay half, he blurted. We have savings. Good, I said. That's what grown-ups do. We did not buy the Lexus. We bought a sensible hybrid that looks like a good decision and smells like fabric protector. On the way out, Lila grabbed my hand and squeezed. Thank you, she said, like it was a new language she was finally learning to speak. For everything. Then a little grin, sly and golden. And, for the record, I kept the bow. For the baby. When the baby came, 3 weeks early and furious about it, I stood at the hospital window holding a 7-pound bundle who looked exactly like my husband in the mouth and my mother in the eyes. Lila was gray with effort, hair damp, face raw from the work of insistence. Chase looked ready to swear a vow to whatever God had gotten them through. The nurse wrote North Family on a whiteboard, and for the first time in a year, I felt like the word fit around me again. Mom, Lila said, exhausted and soft. Will you stay with us the first week? We want you there. No minimal. Bring your soup. I laughed and cried at the same time, which I don't recommend unless you have a tissue in your sleeve. I'll bring everything, I said. That first night home, when the baby refused to sleep unless someone hummed the same melody over and over, I sat in the Majesty's bow like a throne in their living room and sang. The baby stared up at me like he'd known the song before he knew air. Chase brewed coffee at 2 a.m. and brought me a mug with both hands like an offering. Lila watched us through half-shut eyes and whispered, I love you, into the thick night and did not take it back in the morning. Weeks later still, when the world had settled into the shape of 3 people learning to become a family with a 4th, Lila and I took a walk with the stroller under the jacaranda. Purple petals stuck to the wheels like confetti. A car passed, sleek, chrome, words in cursive on its back that asked to be noticed. Lila watched it go and then looked down at the stroller and said, perfect is boring. I grinned. Finally, I said, something we agree on. She bumped my hip with hers. Not just something. We turned onto 12th Street. A rooster escaped, perhaps, from someone's backyard coop, darted out, tossed its head, and strutted past like a sign. Lila burst into laughter so sudden and loud that the baby startled, then hiccuped, then smiled. We stood there in the middle of the sidewalk, 2 women and a small person and a bird with more confidence than sense, and I thought, this is my wedding. This is where I belong. People ask me, sometimes, when they hear the tale, because Lila tells it at dinner parties now, owning it, using it to skewer her own old softness for other people's approval, wasn't it petty? The hotel, the car, the bow? I tell them the truth. Petty is when you harm just to sting. This was a lesson wrapped like a gift. It said, money is not love. Love is love. And love is full of wrinkles and roosters and cars that run because you tend them, not because they're new. And sometimes, when I'm alone, I take the bow down from the closet shelf where it lives between holidays. I tie it around the back of a dining chair and sit in it and feel ridiculous. Then I laugh, out loud, with my whole chest and whisper to no one and everyone, happy honeymoon.
My grandmother told me this story. Thanks for watching this video. Bye bye!